Hi, I'm Tulsa divorce attorney Palmer Johnson, and welcome to my video series where I answer frequently asked questions I get from family law clients. And this is something that comes up from time to time at the end of a case, and certainly talked to other attorneys that have dealt with this as well. So this is a little bit of a general statement from a client. You get to the end of the case, and they feel like that you didn't win, and they should uh, be refunded all of the money that they've paid for legal fees. And if they don't do it, if you don't refund them their money, then they're going to file a bar complaint against you. So, um, and I think we live in this world where it's absolutely, if you were just the least bit unhappy about something, you can demand your money back, and many companies will do so. We've sort of been trained as consumers that that is perfectly okay. It's okay to use an entire carton of some beauty product and then say, I don't like this, and take it back, and they'll give you your money back or replace it or exchange it. You can return anything to a Walmart and they will take it back. And some of this has been sold to us as good customer service. In business school, a lot of people have heard the example of the really good client that was a little bit old and senile, and she returned a set of tires, and they took them back at Nordstrom. Well, Nordstrom doesn't sell tires, and that's supposed to be a testament to always saying yes. And so any good attorney and no attorney should ever guarantee the results in that can be achieved in a case. It's just there's too many factors, and it's an impossibility. It sets unreasonable expectations. Um, I would run from an attorney that guarantees you anything. I think attorneys can quantify um, the chances of achieving results that a client wants in a case, and I think it's absolutely our job to assess the legal merits of a case. Um, uh, in a when you get into something like a family law matter, um, win-lose can be a little bit more difficult to quantify, but a lot of clients might consider anything that was not exactly what they specifically wanted at the beginning to be a loss. So if you look at it from that perspective, um, a good attorney is going to talk to a client about all the risks that they might face going into a um, a trial or a court situation where you're turning something over to a judge, telling them this is the evidence the other side has. This is the risk. Here's our exposure. Here's here's things that we could do to eliminate that. But do I think that as an attorney we can control the facts, and we can always control exactly even sometimes what a client discloses to us until sometimes the very last minute, or even um, in a courtroom um, uh, that can have a huge, uh, you know, factor on the final outcome of the case. And again, some of it's perception, some of it is things that sometimes you talk to clients and you tell them, I think that this position is a bit untenable, or this is the likely outcome. If we put this to a judge, is something here, and they're maybe just not hearing you along the way. Um, and you go in, you have a hearing, you get a result that sometimes that the client will often feel as if or frame as if they're just completely shocked by, and which can be shocking to, I think, many attorneys who think, well, I've discussed this with the client extensively, and perhaps a best practice would be to do that in writing. But is simply getting to the end of your case and not being happy with the final outcome at a trial going to entitle you to um, all of your money back, or does that mean that you didn't have a good attorney, or that you weren't well represented in your case? And I think the answer to that question you know, is it possible that exists? Absolutely, but I'm speaking in generalities here. It's also quite possible that you had very competent representation. You received the services that you paid for, you were well represented throughout the proceedings, and at the end, the facts simply dictated um, that the court made an alternative decision to the one that you would have selected. So the idea that if you're unhappy with the final result in a case that you would be entitled to all of your money back is kind of a problematic mindset. If you are finding that you are at odds with your counsel, I think you should consider and that what you're telling them that you want and what they're telling you they think is achievable are not aligning. I think that you should substitute your attorney long before you would get to the final outcome um, of saying that you feel like you weren't represented or your interests weren't represented because um, just simply the idea that you're unhappy with the final result is not necessarily indicative of poor representation or any ethical violations or breaches of duty or failures on the part of the attorney. And I think when the stakes are very high and you're talking about things that are very important to people, these matters can be very emotional. And a good attorney will have spoken to you about these things, and I think also will be happy to talk to you about these things, even if you're momentarily feeling some anger about something to help you process it and understand it. So I think there can be also be a path forward here, but um, just the idea that you, if you don't like the results, the reasonable um, expectation is that you should just simply receive any of the money you paid to the attorney for fees back is just going to set you up to be even more upset and now about something completely different. And I think that often is what it is. It becomes a sideshow. You're not really mad at the attorney. You're mad at the facts. You might even be mad at yourself about the things that you've done to affect your own situation because let's face it, most of the time the person who's going to be most responsible for this problem that you're unhappy about is the person who's unhappy about it. And, um, you know, uh, good lawyers are not going to put on a fraud to the court for you either, and they're not miracle workers, so that can totally change the facts of the case. Um, they can do things to help you um, identify areas of exposure, things that can be done, strategize on better outcomes and recommendations throughout the case that would put you in a better end result. But the onus is still going to be on the client at times to take the advice of counsel, and a failure to do those things at the end or a decision by a judge is not going to necessarily entitle you to a full refund of all the fees that you've paid.